Last chapter, I was very young. I was born. And I was only 3.5 when we moved from Bergen, or Askøy. And I don't remember all the things that I've told you in the last chapter, but some of the things I've been told. Some of the things I do remember, because I do remember things from when I was very young. But now we move over to another chapter where I'm older, and I do know I remember the things that I will tell you. It's not only been told to me or seen in the pictures. So this is chapter 2, Bodø town, 1985 through 1987. I've always known that I'm valuable, but not to whom. Lisa Chalet. When this was recorded, it was really stormy outside, and you could hear that in the background. This chapter is very long, so this is now part 1 out of 2 or 3, let's see, the chapter about Bodø. Stormy edition. In the beginning of the 80s, my dad had a beautiful, dark, redly beer. How do you say that? Beard? Beer? Not a beer. Okay. So in the beginnings of the 80s, my dad had a beautiful, dark, redly beard and black hair. My mom had a long, dark brown hair and big glasses. We came to the house for the first time, the house that my parents bought in Bodø. And my dad was inside waiting. I was so eager to see him again. I had missed him so much, and he was my hero. And it was this, I would say, horrible experience for me. Because the last thing I could remember was that he had a big beard. But he didn't. It was all shaved off. And he had done that before when I was younger, but I couldn't remember ever having seen him without a beard. So I wasn't sure if it was even him. And then he had an infection, he had a cold. So his voice was almost totally gone. It wasn't gone. It was just squeaking sounds coming out of him. So this stranger of a man with no beard, which supposedly was my dad, and this extremely strange, unrecognizable voice. And he was gonna hug me and hold me, and I was like, what is going on? And is this my dad? Is this really him? And is he ever gonna be himself again? So that's my first memory from Bodø. We moved to Bodø. We came to this big old house that my parents had bought, and it had a totally wrecked shed in the backyard, because that was, in Norwegian we say verneverdig. I think in English you say nationally listed. Both the house and the shed had stood through Second World War when Bodø was bombed. My parents were not allowed to take it down and remove this shed, even though it had a broken roof and holes everywhere and shattered windows. And it was, I was asking my mom, isn't this dangerous? And she's like, yeah, just don't go inside. And my parents put all kinds of trash in this shed, and it just looks horrible. I remember that one of my siblings really liked bread with raspberry jam and orange marmalade, and the sibling didn't like the crust. So I remember that we found crusts in the most creative hiding places in this house, and some we found years later. Across the street there was a big lawn and a huge grim building where me and my mom, we were walking on this lawn, just walking around, and she told me that inside this house was, to explain what kind of house it was without saying the words, it's where business people and priests and all kinds of people in high positions have secrets meetings. And my mom, she told me that inside of there was happening secret things, and which had to do with the devil. I'm not sure if that's something you should tell a 5-year-old or however old I was at that point. But anyways, I didn't like this colossal big building, and yeah. I remember one day, my mom, she took me for a walk I was in the stroller. I was really cranky, and she was trying to have me sleep, and she walked down to a playground. And of course, then I wanted to get out and play. I couldn't remember having been to a playground in the longest time, and I was like, wow, has this place been here the whole time? I don't know how long we haven't been living there, but anyways, I didn't want to sleep anymore, and she was so frustrated with me because she really tried to have me sleep. I have no idea why she didn't take me for a walk then. And while we were having this situation where I wanted to get out and she wanted me to sleep, a man comes up to her, but he's passing us, and he's just saying some funny joke, just like people from the north in Norway do, and she smiled back and laughed and said something funny. And after he had left, she looked at me and she said, "Do you know who that was?" I was like, "No, I didn't see because I was busy being cranky." And she said, "Oh, that was Halvdan Sivertsen." And he was my big hero. He was all kids' hero, because he was the TV host of a TV show on the only TV channel that we had in Norway when I grew up. And I was so frustrated with her. Why did she tell me after he had left? After he had left, I was desperate to say hi to my hero and get to meet him. And I just told her straight off, you look for him and tell me if you see him. Tell me. But she didn't care. She was like, yeah. I mean, she knew that I really liked him. I was even fixing my hair so it would be the same as his. I was parting it and my hair in the very center, just like he did, and I was trying to walk like him. And I couldn't understand why she didn't care enough about my world and I couldn't get it. So this is my first memory of how my mom was not engaged in me and my interests or understood anything of me. And this was, of course, not a big deal. I mean, she could have just been, it could have been that she was just not thinking, but this lack of interest, and she confirmed to the extreme over the coming years. So this is just my first memory of that. She didn't, let me say this. I was really frustrated with her after this, and I told her, you look for this man, and I was not talking to her in a respectful manner. One thing is that I was really tired, so it wasn't the right time to correct me and train me and teach me anything. But at the same time, I just want to say that she never taught us how to speak properly to her and respect each other, respect ourselves. I remember she wanted to show us something. She was making it's for crafting, where you make things for fun, and she made something that we in Norwegian call troll dough. I don't know how to say that in English, but maybe like a magical dough or something, where we would shape, fashion figures, like whatever you wanted, and you could put it in the oven, and it would be really hard, and then you would paint it, decorate it. And she told us we could make anything, and it would actually become this thing for real. And I was amazed. I was thinking, why didn't she tell us about this before? There was just unlimited things that could happen now. And I was so excited. And I decided quickly I wanted to make a swimming pool so we could have in our backyard. And I shaped a swimming pool, and I was looking out the window, looking, and this swimming pool didn't manifest. And I was looking at my mom and especially one of my other siblings, and I was expecting them to tell me what was going on, and they just started laughing at me and ridiculed me and didn't want to answer my question. It was as if they were having fun with me just being all confused. And after a while, it just really struck me. This was not true. It is not possible that this magical dough could become things for real. And I felt so stupid. And I was thinking, how could you lie to a child and not even comfort me when I was so devastated? Because it really broke my heart. I 100% expected there to be a swimming pool in the backyard, and this, I was so disappointed. On the first floor, my dad had an office, and I remember him sitting there in his suit, and he had a light blue shirt or white shirt, and he smelled of aftershave, and he had just shaved every day, and he had a nice haircut, and he was just the most beautiful man, I thought, in the whole world. I just loved sitting on his lap and cuddle his cheeks and just kiss him on the cheek and just talk to him, look him in the eyes, and we were having fun. We were talking, and he would make jokes and had me laugh, and he would I really bonded with him, and we had great contact. When I loved my mom as well, and I would come to her and kiss her on the cheek and tell her that I loved her, but she always told me back, yeah, I love you, but she never said it to me first. I cannot remember one time in my entire life that she actually came to me, hugged me, or took me up on her lap. I always had to come to her. So it was different with my dad. My dad, he liked to tell stories. He could brag about himself, which is not Norwegian at all. We have something that is called jantelov, which is you shall not think that you are anything, that you have anything, that you are able to do anything. And he didn't play by the rules of that law. So he was more like, I think, an American, where you can say like, oh, I have this company and I did this. And I really like that about him, that he could brag about himself. And of course, I agree with everything he said about himself. I remember that he had a cell phone, which not many people had at that time. It was huge as a suitcase, and it was really heavy. And he needed to keep this in his car mostly because it was too heavy to drag around. And I remember that it was green, yellow lights between the keys and really high key sound, and it was so cool, and he was so proud of this. And he was sitting on his office selling life insurances, and he was a very charming man, so that's how I think he got to sell those. And he liked to tell stories, and one of the stories that he told many times was when my Auntie Wendy and Uncle Bernie was considering buying life insurances from him, and and abruptly my Auntie Wendy didn't think, and she just said, oh, if one of us dies, Bernie, I'm moving to the town. They lived on the countryside. And my dad, we all thought this was so funny, and my dad told this story over and over again, and it was typical him to tell stories. Some of them were really funny, and some of them maybe not. I also remember him having back pain, and I loved him so much. that I also wanted to have back pain. I didn't think about at all it would actually hurt to have pain in my back. I just wanted to be like him. Well, many years later, when I was a teenager, I had so much back pain I needed to go to a chiropractor for about 2 years to fix this over and over again. And I remember I was thinking I shouldn't have wished for this when I was 5 or 6 or however old I was. So back to when we moved to Bodø, I remember that my parents, they built a big bed in one of the bedrooms, a big bed for themselves. It was as huge as the room almost, and we just loved this bed. So all the kids, we were sleeping in this bed, and they didn't get to sleep there because we were there, because it felt so luxury when they had built this and themselves, and it was so big, and we were so proud of it. But I remember that I didn't like that my parents didn't sleep in the same bed anymore. They were sleeping in single beds and not together. And I was thinking, yeah, that's not how it's supposed to be. I remember that they had a fight for the first time that I could remember. And my dad was even crying. And they were very strong-willed, both of my parents. So I don't know why he was crying, if that was actually because he was sad and overwhelmed, or if it was because he wanted our pity. I'm not sure. And I remember that they would say, my parents would say, "You're setting up the children against me." And this phrase was used over and over and over and over again over the coming years. I remember them fighting so much. They would argue and be loud, and I would say to them, "Stop fighting," and they would always say, "We're not fighting, we're just discussing things." And it was not nice at all. I was always afraid of another fight. I remember that I didn't have great contact with my siblings, and especially one of them. And I wasn't aware at this point that it wasn't a good situation. This was my world that I was used to. I remember that we were sitting in this big bed, and one of my siblings turned off the light, and he wanted to show us a ghost that was a luminous ghost. It would glow in the dark. This was so siblingy. And we sat under the duvet, and this was such a nice memory. I felt that, we got a little bit of connection, and he was talking mostly to the other siblings, but I just really held on to that. No, he was probably including me as well. He might have been, a little bit. I remember someone giving me a blue square scarf. It was soft fabric, or like smooth fabric, and it had polar bears along its borders. And I just love this kind of scarf, and I put it on as if it was like a Superman cape. And I was in this big bed, and I was trying to fly. I jumped up, and I was spinning right and left, and sometimes I really felt that, I flew a little bit. I can fly, I'm sure. But it never really took off. But I do remember this feeling that anything is possible. I remember that my mom, she wanted to put me to bed, and I had taken off my clothes and went to bed. And then I decided that I'm really not tired, I'm getting up. And I knew I was rebelling, but I needed to try to see where the limits were. So I put on my clothes, and I got up, and I was, trying to have her laugh of this so that I could stay. And she did laugh. And I was disappointed that she wouldn't just tell me, "Hey, this is not the way to do it, listen to me and go to bed." She just let me drag out the time, and I was not happy about that. because of my eye situation, with one of my eyes where was pointing to my nose, especially when I got tired, and it wasn't a good vision on this eye. I needed to wear a patch on the other eye to train this eye so that it might get its vision like it was supposed to be. And this had to happen before I was 7, and that was explained to me when I was almost 7, which I should have wished for that they told me a long time before. But back to the patch, it was like a band-aid, kind of where it has glue on it, and the problem was that it really itched so much that I just itched and itched as long as I possibly could be able to take this, and then I just took it off, and my mom was angry every time. But I was allergic to it, so... And then when I was almost 7, the doctor gave me like a pirate patch made from fabric with a rubber band on. And it didn't itch at all. And I was thinking, why on earth didn't they give me this before? Why didn't my mom just fix something? Why would they bother me for years with a patch that I was allergic to? At that point I understood the point isn't the patch that's the itching thing. The point is that you need to cover the eye with anything. And I remember I was bitter towards my mom because I really felt that she didn't engage in my well-being and really cared about me. And I remember for all those years that I used that patch, she was blaming me when I didn't, like, I should use it every day and we weren't, and she would just tell me that it's your fault, you're never putting it on. She said it was my fault that my eyesight didn't get fixed. But I was like 4, 5, 6, and I was supposed to remember that myself. It was a lot of things put on my shoulders as if I was almost an adult. So I remember that I was in a music kindergarten, not a regular kindergarten where kids play outside, but we were inside in the basement and we were never outside playing. And I just wanted to be outside and play. I wanted fresh air, I wanted to climb. And I told my mom, I just don't want to be here. It was really boring. It was just stupid instruments like rhythm sticks, and I don't know how to say all of this in English, but it was like triangle, ding, 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 and I was not interested in this at all. I love music, but this was not something that interested me. And we would have to sit there and listen to this old boring lady that was singing like a Norwegian, I would say a crow. And all the kids were miserable because they probably all wanted to run outside and play. I have no idea why she forced me to go to this music kindergarten, which I never liked. And but every time I complained about something, she didn't listen to me or say, "Oh, is that how you feel?" or "Really?" Or she would just be mad at me. She would just be really strict, like really, I don't know the word, but mad. And always just correct me. She never listened. And she always told me, many times she told me, "Okay, let's just try a little bit more. Let's just try a little bit more." And she said that until I was too old to go in a kindergarten. And when I understood that she fooled me, I just felt that something inside of me died. Like, I have to wait until I'm an adult and decide things myself, then I can live. And she really broke my trust again and again. I used to walk outside, just walk in the city around downtown and talk to people. Alone, I would be walking there, and I was maybe 5, 6. I remember an old man I think I talked to several old people with almost like dementia. He was one of them, and I remember him spitting something black on the ground and talking, and I remember this lady that we called the bottle lady because she was always collecting bottles. She had like a trolley with her, and she lived in a psych ward, and the rumors said that they had done a mistake when they treated her many years before this, where they had damaged her brain. So I don't know if that was with electrical shot or like I don't know what they did to her, but she was really disabled. And she would throw her hands and her head around when she was talking, and she would just talk and talk and talk, and it was almost impossible to understand anything she said, but I felt sorry for her, so every time I saw her I just said hi and I let her talk for some minutes. And I remember I talked to another lady that was she was downtown collecting money. Her name was Shirley, and she collected money for the elders, and I just really wanted contact with nice adults, like safe adults, like, yeah. But no one explained to me that it could actually be dangerous to talk to people like this. I don't understand how I was able to walk around like this. I would never let my child walk around like that. I remember one man, old man, he was walking with military like camouflage trousers, and he had a hole in the head. There was another man, and he was also talking a lot of gibberish, and he always got lost. He didn't know where he was, and police and everyone was looking for him. But the rumors said that he had actually been very smart. He was walking offshore. No, he was working offshore. They told that he knew 12 to 15 languages, which I don't know, but they said that he was so smart that he lost it. I don't know what's true. One day I was walking outside, not too far from us, just at the end of one of the streets close to us, and there were two girls playing, and I like to joke around, and I started talking gibberish to them. I was pretending that I was speaking a foreign language. And after a while they got their babysitter. She was inside and she came out and she tried to understand what I was saying, and she understood, of course, that this was just me doing it for fun, and I admitted it and I started laughing. And this babysitter, she was probably a teenager, she asked if I wanted to come with them. They were going somewhere, and I said yes. And of course I should not have said yes, but thank God he protected me and this went well. And we went I don't know, maybe 10 minutes walk from there and into a building, and there was some kind of meeting inside. There were chairs everywhere, people everywhere, and people were talking gibberish. And they didn't look at each other, they looked like up in the air or closed their eyes and looked up, and they had their hands in the air. And I was so fascinated, what was this? And all of a sudden, one of my siblings come in the door. I've never heard the explanation why he knew where I was, because I hardly knew where I was. We were in this youth club building, but these people that were having a meeting there had rented this for the occasion. My sibling just grabbed my arm, being really harsh, just pulled me out of there. Come with me, where have you been? And I didn't know that I had done anything wrong, because there was never any rules to live by. I mean, sometimes there was a rule and the next day the rule was gone. one day my mom would yell at me for one thing, and the next hour it was okay to do the same thing. So who knew what was wrong this day? And my mom was upset with me, and I really tried to tell my sibling about this, and he just told me, don't, I don't want to listen to your babbling. I tried to tell my mom when we got home, and she was like, no, not listening to this. So I never got to tell him this strange experience. I remember that my mom, she made a system for us when we were gonna do the dishes. We had different days to do the dishes. We would either do the dishes or dry them. And we would get so many kroners for when we had done so many times. And I loved systems. So I just wanted to do this. I didn't want anyone to help me because I really wanted to earn these money myself. Problem was just that my mom stopped with this system. She just stopped, and then she was just yelling because we weren't helping. But my problem was that there was no system to follow, so I didn't know anything when I was going to do what. I remember I had lots of pens. I don't remember, I had collected them somewhere. They were like advertisement pens. They were given to people, and I had collected so many. And I was thinking maybe I shouldn't have that many, so I wanted to give them to someone else, and I just... My dad just loved this story. He kept on telling this, that I stood on the sidewalk just outside our house because it was the most trafficked street in the center of town, so there was a lot of people passing. And I would just hand the pen to everybody that was passing by. And my dad kept telling about this lady who had her hands full of groceries, bags with groceries, and she had to stick this pen in her mouth, or she had me do it or something, and she walked off with these grocery bags and this pen in her mouth, and my dad would just laugh and laugh at this. I remember that after a while there was this building erected between us and this huge it wasn't dark, it was actually light, but it was just an unwelcoming building. There came another building in between us and this big building. And it was a church. It was a Pentecostal church. And I didn't believe too much in Jesus. Well, actually maybe I did when I was little, because my parents told me that we live in a Christian country and we believe in Jesus, but no one ever talked about Jesus in our everyday life at all. They just wanted to sing. Well, at nighttime we could choose if they were gonna read a cartoon or if we were gonna say a prayer. But I just had some peace about this Pentecostal church coming between us and this scary building. And I felt safer, even though later we made fun of these people because we could see straight into their where they had the meetings, and they would have their hands in the air and speak gibberish. And when I saw that, I understood that these were the people that was in this youth club where I just walked in with these neighbors. That was a strange experience. It actually was very strong. But later we would just make fun of them. So every birthday we would run to the window to see if they had a meeting there, so we could laugh at them. So later, when I became a Christian, many years later, I knew exactly where to sit, so no one would see me from home. I have a good memory with my mom. She bought books and pencils, and she made a home school for us, just for fun. One of our siblings was already in school, and we younger siblings really wanted to go to school as well. She had this bell in her hand that she would ring, and we would come running to the table. And she would teach us how to write and read. And I was very proud of this. I really loved learning. I also have memories of her telling me that if you do that, I don't love you. And I remember I looked at her in shock and I was saying, are you saying that you don't love me if I do this? I don't remember what this was, but something. And she's like, yeah, if you do like that, I don't love you. That's still a very hard memory. She also said this. When I would tell my mom, I love you, she would say, no, you don't love me. You only love your dad. And I was like, no, I love you. No, it's not true. You only love your dad. So I had to fight for her to believe that I actually loved her. De trodde at Jesus var borte. De trodde at Jesus var død. Da kom han på stranden en morgen som lyste rød. Tro ikke at Jesus er borte. Tro ikke at Jesus er død. Han lever og gir oss å spise av livets brød.